Hello, welcome to our very first Connecting Chats. Today we're going to be talking with Rachael Perrin. Rachael is a co-founder of Soundcastle and one of the main forces behind the Soundcastle Community. She's going to be talking to us all about Soundcastle and the community, but also about her journey as a music maker and a creative thinker. Enjoy! I think we're live. Hello, Rachael Perrin.
Good morning, Fernando.
Connecting Chats. Ching ching. Here we go. Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you so much for coming to our very first Connecting Chats. Very happy to start with a big name like Rachael Perrin. And, still, shall we get started then?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
So first of all, I would like you to tell us a little bit of who is Rachael Perrin? Where are you from? What's your background? And tell us a little bit about you, and feel free to explore any new roots of your background.
Okay, fab. So I'm Rachael. I live in Hastings on the south coast of England. And I grew up actually just down the road in a little village called Pevensey. So my story, I guess, is that I'm a musician. I've always been a musician, a clarinetist and saxophonist. And I went to the Guildhall in London for my undergrad and fell into this beautiful world of community music through the route of, I guess, starting off as a classical musician and then realising that wasn't the dream and trying to find something with a bit more meaning. Fell into the leadership course at Guildhall, which is where a lot of our team met and where the Soundcastle team kind of evolved from. And yeah, since then, I was in London for 10 years and then I moved back down to the seaside and now here running Soundcastle from Hastings, and I have a little boy called Finley, who's nearly 3, so I'm living the early years dream professionally and personally. Yeah, and just finding a lot of creativity in the business and in particularly this bit of the business, like meeting new people. That's something that for me at the moment really inspires my creative practice more actually than my music making, I would say.
Cool. Yeah. So I think you said a few things already that I was going to ask, but I'd like you to go a little bit further on the music making aspect of your background and just kind of show us a little bit of your journey until now, maybe until Soundcastle, let's say, because then we can talk about Soundcastle as a separate thing, but maybe just before Soundcastle, like, you know, where you studied music, as a child, when you started, and what kind of music did you do before going to Guildhall? And then at Guildhall, I know you were in folk music and everything. So give us a little bit of an overall view of your career so far until Soundcastle.
Okay, perfect. So I guess my music making, well, we all make music, right? We sing and we play as children, but I would say it kind of really started when I was about 9 years old. And I was at the 50th wedding anniversary of my grandparents. And most of my family are musicians in some form or another, whether that's professional or not. Everybody plays. And we went and we stayed on a big campsite down in Devon. And one evening, everybody kind of got together and it was very kind of campfire vibes and everyone was jamming and playing. And I wasn't, because I hadn't quite, I hadn't found an instrument yet and that wasn't quite something I'd explored. And my cousin, who was, I guess, the closest in age to me, she played the clarinet and she let me have a little go, which obviously sounded hideous. It could be a beautifully romanticized moment. It wasn't, but it certainly inspired that moment of, oh, this is something, this is something to be a part of. This is something that I could do. And that energy, that overwhelming energy of that kind of informal music making. And then at their party, everyone suited up and dressed up and played jazz. Loads of jazz musicians. Lots of it's a real kind of culture in our family. So that was amazing. And I came back from that trip completely inspired. And then my parents supported me to get a clarinet and start doing clarinet lessons. And then I guess I went through quite a traditional English pathway of music making through the music service, doing Saturday bands and clarinet ensembles. Mm-hmm. And then a little bit after that, I started dabbling in the saxophone as well, which is obviously quite a natural transition from the clarinet, and really loved that. I've always had this dual relationship of both. The clarinet more at that point is a kind of classical thing, like grades and exams, and the saxophone more is in a bit more of an adventure, I guess, in some ways. And then I kept playing through secondary school. It was a big part of my kind of secondary school journey. I think music is what got me through secondary school, probably. Teenage time, I was definitely in the music bubble. That was where I was happiest. And that's actually where I professionally started music making for the first time. So I formed a band called Bay Point with a group of 6 friends. We were all about 15. We played in a pantomime band actually for our, I have not thought about this for a long time, Fernando. We played we played in a pantomime for our secondary school, and after that we were like, oh, we don't want to wait a year to play music together again, let's make a band. So we did. It got us out of a lot of sports lessons because we kept saying we have rehearsals, so you know, that was great.
Yeah.
And a motivation. And so we played and we started gigging, and then we started gigging professionally, so local pubs, local weddings. Yeah, that was, we were playing soul music mainly, soul and Motown.
Nice.
So I was playing that and also managing the band, so all the bookings and PR, and I totally fell in love with that side of it as well from the beginning. That was always part of it. Yeah, loved it. And then just play, I guess, more and more locally. And then I had a clarinet teacher. I was lucky actually. I had a clarinet teacher who said to me, "Have you thought about auditioning for conservatoire?" And I didn't even know what that was. Like, that was not my path. I was very much a gigging musician, and but he suggested it, and I went for it and had this really strange experience of coming into Guildhall and starting to understand that world for the first time. Got a place as a clarinetist, auditioned as both a clarinetist and saxophonist, and got in on clarinet. But had this really interesting journey through Guildhall, I think, of, I was never, I say I've never truly been a classical musician, you know, that kind of passion and dedication for that kind of music, or exploring different kinds of music. So to me, I didn't realise that music college would be so specifically about one kind of music. And I found that very hard. So I went in with all this passion and all my instruments, and really excited to meet loads of people and make lots of music. And then I found that stripping back, that if you've been through that system, a lot of people probably recognise, okay, now we're going to play this scale for 6 weeks, and now we're going to play this study and this way.
Oh yeah.
And that was really different to me. That was not how I did music making.
Interesting. And then you went straight from that to the leadership that kind of turned the table around and maybe helped you kind of realize some of the things you had in mind when thinking about studying music, right?
Yeah, totally. So I did struggle, and I think in my 3rd year I was really pushing to find any other opportunities within Guildhall. I was really determined not to drop it, and determined that within a building full of creatives and actors and makers and designers, there had to be more. Like, I was really had this sense there had to be more. And I found this group of actors and musicians, a really small group that got together one evening a week, I think. It was called Open Call, and it was really amazing just to start music making with actors and start to play. I guess to me it was playing again. It was improvising, it was exploring, it felt exciting, it felt full of
playful in a way as well with the music, huh?
Yeah, because I was in this training which was go and listen to 10 different brilliant clarinetists play the Mozart Clarinet Concerto better than you're ever going to play it, and then try and play it a bit like one of them.
Yeah.
I lost I didn't understand, I just completely lost focus and purpose. So finding those actors, and then through that starting to explore community music, and realising that actually for me, that's what it was all about. That's what it always had been about, with groups of people gathered, faces, celebrating something or processing something or connecting. And that made it all make sense. So yes, I dived straight into the leadership course. Yeah, and found my people.
It's interesting how it was kind of going back rather than seeing something new, right? It was like, oh, this is what I know.
Yeah, that felt like going home. And I think even from my personal life, like my dad was a teacher, my mum worked in health and social care, so my personal and family world was all around that kind of nurturing, supporting people, and that's what I've grown up in. So I think I sort of slightly derailed. It was an important derailment, but it wasn't my path for sure.
And another thing that I noticed on your talk is that like little moments that were actually huge, right? And then the big moments were actually not kind of what you expected. So like the party, you know, when you were kids, and it's like that stayed with you, and the things you did at Guildhall that weren't part of the main part of your study, that what made you. So that's what sometimes we don't give that much importance to the little things, but that's sometimes what the answers lies, right? That's cool. That's definitely very cool.
Yeah, taking the time to look back as well, even just in this conversation with you, like valuing that that journey. I think I don't look back on that very much. It just kind of is. Maybe it's a version of that on LinkedIn, it's a version of that on my profile, but other than that, it doesn't tell the story that I just told you, I guess. Nothing about me.
There might be lots of other Rachels around, you know, like trying to study classical music and thinking that that's the only way of doing things, you know, and that's it's cool to hear from you. And I know you're an amazing clarinetist, so that's very, very good to hear from you. Good. So then after leadership, so in leadership, so leadership is a master's degree that unfortunately no longer exists at Guildhall School of Music, but it did have a big impact in everyone's life, everyone that went through it. But then you met all the Soundcastle people, and you decided. Can you tell us a little bit about Soundcastle from that moment when you decided to make something together until now? Let's not talk about much about what you guys want with it, but your journey within Soundcastle until now, because I know you had lots of let's go this way, or let's go that way, and that's, I think, is really, really interesting to hear how you guys developed as a company, and how your thought process about community music and everything developed as well, learning about new technologies and all the things around it. Can you tell?
Sure. Yeah. So we met in 2009 on the leadership course, and we founded Soundcastle officially in April 2011, so just before we were about to graduate. But I think a lot of the formative work happened during those 2 years, like 2009 to 2011, where we were working so closely together. We were just a group of 8 students in our year group, and 4 of us are Soundcastle. So obviously we were working so tightly that whole time. And I think we were for us, it was a very reflective program. We were learning a lot about our individual practice and starting to question and challenge. And that's one thing that the course really offered, was the space to be difficult. I think we really valued that. We'd been through such formal education practice around fitting in, that actually having a space where you could be challenging, or someone would put an idea to you and you could question it. That's what I think the original Soundcastle relationship.
And you're all classical musicians, right? All 4 of you.
Yeah, all classical musicians. So all with different practice within that. So for myself, that's like some jazz, some soul, lots of folk music. I don't know, kind of folk. So everyone's kind of got their different other practice, but through training, everyone's a classical musician. We've been through different kinds of university or conservatoire training. So we were coming from a really kind of similar, different place. And I think, that having the space to think about our practice and to look at what was happening in the world of community music and to question it was really an amazing opportunity for us. So we traveled a lot together. You know, you did. We went all over the world, and that was absolutely amazing in terms of seeing what was happening in other spaces and in other communities, but also for us, again, the things that happen around the work. So yes, there are amazing workshops and courses and classes, but actually those little conversations you have, or things you get through when you're traveling, things you have to deal with, that are really deeply bonding and formative. I think a lot of the Soundcastle, the foundation of the relationships and the trust and the, you know, what we now formally are creating as this code of conduct, really that's all based in what happened, I think, in 2010, 2000. Yeah. So we we got closer, and we knew we wanted to do something together. We had a real sense that there was something real and something ongoing. And throughout the course, we all worked part-time. So we were working with different orchestras, different outreach programs, different music hubs. But we had a sense from all of our work that whilst we loved it, we still wanted, we couldn't find somewhere but to do the work that we wanted to do and to challenge things in the way we wanted to challenge. So we knew that that was up for grabs as something we would do. We just didn't know how. And then we saw there was a program sponsored by the Deutsche Bank. It was an award scheme, pyramid award scheme. And we saw a poster for it saying, win £10,000 for a new business idea. Like, okay, that would be great. Like, what nice startup money to have 10 grand to think, what do we do next? You know, we graduated. So we, Hannah called a friend who made like a preliminary logo. We just faked a business very quickly. I think we kind of came up with branding, came up with a name. It was all a concept, really. There was nothing at that point, nothing tangible. We mocked up a pitch based on all of our individual practice. But I think actually what we said, and it'd be really interesting talking to you, I'm just thinking it would be interesting to go back and look at the script from that pitch actually and see what still stands. Because I think the core values, I think, are all still there. And we won, which was amazing. And then, so it meant when we graduated, we had this startup money, which we...
Amazing,
yeah.
And then after that, you guys did some projects with the money and...
Yeah, so we spent the money mainly on equipment. In fact, loads of musical instruments that we're still using, which is quite satisfying. So we bought beautiful instruments, because that was one thing we really wanted, was to take high quality, accessible instruments into community spaces. So we bought lovely kit. And the first thing we did was hire a community centre, one down the road from my house, one that Hannah had been working in across the river, which was in London. So I was in South London. She'd been working in East London. And really, they had this idea of this project, Musical Beacons, about creating beacons within communities of connectivity. And we sat in these community centres, and it was real grassroots stuff. We invited friends and neighbours, people we knew, put the instruments in, and we spent years developing a practice, understanding what that was. And I think that's still an approach that I have so much respect for, this thing of get started, like have an idea and then get on the ground, you know, get something happening, and then start to analyse it. And actually Musical Beacons now has been funded ever since, and we've now got research partnerships, and it's now moving across from our London bases into Bristol and Sussex, and it's really expanded, and lots of people have trained up to the programme. And I think that it started from a place of let's just see, like let's be responsive, and that now is like at the absolute core of everything. It always has been, now in a more academic way, but back then just in a very instinctive, the right thing to do is just be here. Yeah. And see who we meet, who wants to door, and why, and work with that.
And do you want to give us a little, like a panoramic vision of what Soundcastle's been doing since, like, and like, you don't need to go into each project, but kind of like an overview of all the projects and of the philosophy behind it and everything, please.
Sure. So we, as you said before, we went in and lots of directions. So we have a real kind of yes and approach to business. That is very much, it runs throughout. Probably most people listening to this know what yes and is, but it's basically that the approach where if you put an idea out there, someone else says yes and we could do this and we could do this, and you grow it, right, and it expands. Yeah. And we did that with our business model. So if you track back and look at what we've done, it tells a pretty crazy story. So we threw ourselves into festivals. For a while we worked in the Bloomsbury Festival, doing kind of parade work, composition for parades. We ran our own huge multi-art festival in Bloomsbury, about the suffragette Emily Wilding Davison. We worked in partnership with different schools that we've personally been in. It was all about relationships. We were in partnership with the British Museum for a long time, working on doing responsive community practice in response to their exhibitions, so bringing in different people into the museum and working with them creatively. We went to Brazil with you, which was amazing. That was an incredible trip. Hopefully we'll do that one again. Yeah. But so many partnerships, so many explorations, lots of training. I think all the way through we've wanted to deliver training spaces, creative spaces for practitioners. That's always been important.
Yeah.
But gradually we've always thought the idea of having to sit in a community music niche, like say we are specialists in this particular thing. We've always wanted to say we're specialists in an approach, like a really responsive approach. That's what we've now been able to do, I guess, is to not focus on one particular area. But whilst we have 2 programs, we have Musical Beacons, the People's Music Collective, that are with very specific groups of people. Actually, the practice that runs through Soundcastle is all about well-being, it's about community resilience, it's about responsiveness, autonomy, really listening to a group of people. So it's, whilst what we do is scalable, it's also incredibly responsive and embedded in particular communities. So I guess the philosophy that underpins it all is the Soundcastle theory of practice, which I think Hannah's going to be introducing actually on the community a bit later this week for people that are interested in a bit more depth into that. But it's a kind of the way that we work is very embedded in responsiveness. I say that's the main value, is being present and listening, being really being with people, not taking something into a community, but being there and working with what comes.
That's amazing. That's great, Rachel. So now we get to why we're here today, almost, about Soundcastle Community. And it's such a crazy big concept, crazy not in a crazy way, but like a big kind of full of different parts and different levels of this community. Can you explain a little bit what the Soundcastle Community is? Because this is basically, it's going to lead a lot of things from now in Soundcastle, isn't it? And not everything, of course, but there's a lot to it from now in Soundcastle. And can you tell us a little bit about? And yeah, it's great to have you kind of talking about everything. It's really nice.
Yeah, thanks, Fern. It's really great to explore it with you. And I guess for us, what's exciting to have this chat now is that, you know, if we were doing this in 5 years again, I could be like, the Soundcastle Community has this. But what's nice is that we're 10 days in, or right, 2 weeks in.
Yeah.
It's amazing, exciting collaboration of people. There's already over 70 people there. So the vision for it has been brewing for quite a long time. No, in fact, that's not quite true. Since we founded, we've been talking about the Soundcastle Community, right? And who that is. And for about 8 years, we had this idea that maybe the Soundcastle Community is everyone that we've ever worked with in any community, like finding a way to connect them, to share ideas with them. And then probably in the last year, we had this realization that actually that's not what's important. The people that we've worked with in communities, they've moved on, they're on their own pathways, their own journey, and actually there's no reason for them to stay involved with Soundcastle. They can if they want to stay involved with Soundcastle, but that's not an ask, that's not coming from them. Like, it's actually the ask that we have had repeatedly over the years from our professional community of practitioners, people that have come on our CPD training, people that we meet when we speak at conferences and events. People want a way to connect, right, and stay in touch. So we flipped the idea of it being about our community music on the ground to being about community musicians and our professional community of practice. So that's where it was born from, this idea that we want to create a conversation, an international conversation around brilliant community music making with people that are dynamic and exciting and ready to challenge their practice. So while it's a place to be vulnerable, it's a place to be difficult, it's a place to ask questions that you wouldn't ask anywhere else. Yeah. It's obviously a place to network, but it's not designed as a place to kind of self-promote. It's designed as a place to get in and have the real conversations that enable our practice. Because we, as community musicians, we spend our whole careers supporting other communities' well-being. Yeah, and so many of us are so isolated and disconnected and actually not looking after ourselves at all.
You're promoting connection, but then you leave and that community stay very connected, but you're out.
Yeah, you're out, or you're on the train to your next thing. And
yeah,
I think that isolation is real, and we talk about it a lot. And I think within the Soundcastle, we're a team of 12 now, including our associates, and we talk about that and that sense of disconnect and how we strengthen. And that's one of the things that our team have always spoken about, is like the value of the CPD that we offer, and the way that we think and work reflectively together. And I think this is a ridiculously massive expansion of that group of 12 of us, and what does that look like if we put it on an international platform and say, it's when we're working in the way Soundcastle work, we put an idea into the world and then we sit in it, just like we sat in those community centres 10 years ago.
Yeah.
We're now sitting on the internet with a really exciting team of people with a really, hopefully, great idea, inviting people through the door and seeing what they bring. So at the minute, we've got really exciting partnerships bubbling away, people, external companies, organisations coming in that are interested, that have similar ideas but want to partner on it. We've got individual practitioners coming in. We've got, what's exciting to me actually is that we've got practitioners coming in at the very, very start of their community music journey. Like, I've got my first workshop in this, what does that mean? And then we've got people that are really experienced, have been doing this, kind of career community musicians that are there because you never stop learning, and they want to share, but they also want to learn and challenge and question and connect. And that to me is what a community of practice is.
That's very cool. And it's all online at the moment, right? The community is an online platform that for people to engage and share and connect.
It's all online, but we've just had our first partnership conversation around potentially a live event in June 2021, where we might take the community live somewhere in the UK.
Whoa.
To be revealed, that goes ahead, and then within the community, we're running a 6-month music and wellbeing program, which is pretty big now, and that's got 18 practitioners in addition to the 12 Soundcastle team members on it, and that really digs deeper. That's a really specific development program that digs deeper into professional practice, values. We're specifically looking at creativity, well-being and innovation as core themes as part of that program. And the hope after that pilot 6-month program, we open up more spaces and we start to expand that and embed it as part of the offer as well.
Yeah, that's what's cool as well, because it's an ongoing thing with lots of different inputs and triggers, let's call it. But there are some more focused moments as well, and more focused things happening at the same time, like this music and well-being at the moment, right? That's the main theme, and then within that, that's the ownership and all the other subjects that are bubbling as well.
Exactly, and we've got amazing associates on the Soundcastle team, and everybody's putting in time to committing to thinking about themes for it. So one of our team is thinking about podcasts. Obviously, we're doing this with connecting chats. He's doing the channel on connecting questions. Hannah's going to be starting a book club. It's more and more these threads and themes are starting to evolve around in response, again, like with everything, in response to what people are saying to us. What do they see in the market research? People want video content. What I've been told recently, they want video content and they want a place to connect. They're the two things I keep being told. So
amazing. And in times of like this as well, it's like everything is welcome, isn't it? Like podcasts or videos or text, books, everything is like people are feeling the need of connecting other ways than actually in person CPDs and everything.
Yeah, totally.
That's amazing, Rachel.
Thanks, Fern.
Sorry, you're going to say something now.
I was just going to say that I think there's so many resources out there, but hopefully what this will do is find a place to kind of gather them and give space for the conversation around them, because I think that's often what's missing, is that we read a blog that's inspiring or we listen to a podcast, but then there's nowhere to talk about it. Yeah. So hopefully that's where we're kind of bridging the gap.
Amazing, yeah. It's great to hear other ways of looking into the same thing. Like I'm really enjoying it. Cool. I think the last part of our little chat here is a little provocation that I would like to try with you and see how that goes. And so I would like you to pretend I'm not here and just use this space to say whatever you want to whoever watches this video. And I know like it's a lot of freedom in a in a place like with barriers. And sometimes it might be overwhelming, but I would like to try that. And feel free to say whatever you want to finish our chat.
This is when I regret improvising this, right? When I said, don't send me the script.
Yeah, prove us that improvising and being playful is worth it.
Okay, I guess with this platform, I would say to everybody and any community musicians listening and watching this, that the work that you are doing, that we are doing, is so incredibly important. And I think there are lots of things that will make it feel right now that it's challenging, that it's maybe more challenging than it has been, but that doesn't mean that it's time to stop. And I think this is the time to be super resilient and embed the values that we live out in our projects and our programs as artists, to really think about our own well-being, our own resilience, our own community, and build the strength that you need to support the people. I think it's very easy to overgive right now. So do go out, do gigs outside of care homes, get into your community settings, start to do social distance music making if you can, but also really look after yourself, because it's a different landscape and we need each other right now even more than we ever have, I think. So know that we're here, come and talk with us, let us talk to you as well, and thank you. Good luck.
Thank you, Rachael Perrin. I would say Mrs. Perrin. Very, very, very good to hear from you. Great. So I'm already looking forward to the next connecting chats. I don't know who's going to be here, but it's going to be amazing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we want to get in touch, right?
Yeah, cool.
Nice.
So thank you very much. I guess
Cool.
see you next time.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Ben. See you soon. See you soon. Take care. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.